Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Christopher Michael Curtis Bowen, on this evening edition of Five Liberty Co, creating accelerated expansion and peaceful production of Renaissance and heaven essence embodied in golden age of this enlightenment age of paradisical creation throughout the entire universe, well beyond a Type 596 civilization, and creating out of the super ultra more advanced mind state of super ultra omniscient, and as well as a combination of many omniskills, omnipresences, and omniscient creationalistical transcendental natures of many of the functional mystical aspects of what was already created with not only the multifaceted designs, which are some of the main foundations of transistical natures, such as the advanced forms of transportation, air, land, sea, and water, when it comes to sustainable and peaceful and, of course, longer lasting creations, manifestations, inventions, and thought form creations. It's very important and evident, and then, of course, very necessary to, of course, create, and, well, not necessarily just necessary, but, of course, just to reiterate the more advanced and, of course, more capable forms of tools, wisdom in the form of how to apply, of course, the inventions, of course, which are already solve many limitless forms of solutions, which already have extensions beyond the limitless mind, and of course the sustainable or the sustainability of the many different types of artifacts and inventions and creations founded from and founded for, and of course endlessly provide sources of abundance in a much more efficient, effective manner. Specifically, there's been a lot of course, not only the acceleration of the creation of many fantastical, well-made, well-produced, and well-manifested, and of course the continuing of humanitarian efforts through the biosphere, which is just some of the types of, it's just one of the types of, per se, forms of transportation, humanitarian efforts, transformation, change, storage, and etc., which of course are models of what can be made for more invention, creationalistical ideas, which are founded, of course, on many different types of seeds that have already been sprouting for, of course, the example of the trees which can grow and be planted. Some key aspects that are important to know, which is just one aspect of a part of Ascension, is to recognize some of the parts of Ascension imbued within the pretty much condensified wisdoms, I guess we'll call that. So, sage 116. No. Even probably before 116. Just 100. 4. 100, or chapter 4, 100 to 132, or it's actually 121. There's, of course, a lot of much more co-creative transisticalistical ideas, which, of course, are a very important part of the continuance of this incredibly fast-paced acceleration, which is, of course, is very necessary in order to provide, of course, not only the better environment, which is, for example, what can be made and created and manifested and ultimately bonded in, for example, similar way that elements can be bonded. It's a very important aspect of the multicreationalistical nature of not only combining many different of those seed form ideas, but also those from seed form ideas into more forms out of course formless and formlessness and formness into multifaceted structure that of course is still able to be co-creatively creative, fluid, and also described in, of course, the fourth state of matter, or at least creatable, manifestable, detailable, and moldable, like the fourth state of matter. There are many different forms of grand positive accelerated virtues, which of course have already been known and are pretty much already known, for example, by many. And of course, the functionality of the continued ascension process of one of the key characteristics of what is just continued ultimate sort of accelerated one of the new words would be omniflow, but source of endless functionalities and a source of proficient, also innate, but also accelerated, or as in enlightened mind state, and of course fortifiability. Which is, if I were to describe it, sort of, omnifortifiability is, of course, the sort of ability to not only learn from the types of skills, which are, one way to understand it, of course, is the same type of skills it takes to learn to read, or for example, is this the analogy of reading? Is also one of the characteristics of how to formulate, of course, one of the continued multicreationalistical aspects. Now, to provide more fields of understanding, more realms of understanding, as well as which is a very good thing. We're able to not only manifest the realms, but of course build a sort of, actually, let me use a better word, not necessarily orchestrate, however, it is most definitely a sort of understanding of environmental adaptation in terms of course, not only the environments which can be adapted, but the environments which ultimately, in a sense, shall be adapted. So which is really already the foundation of what was already. So, for example, the types of seeds, trees, branches, plants that can be made. We can of course add more colors, more different types of foundations for those plants, which is just one key aspect and one key part of how to not only design a foundation for a new design, but of course build, or not build, even though build is a good word, but help ultimately creationalistically design a limitless flow of the form of what is just one aspect of heaven essence, of course embodied in one of the things that's embodied, one of the many, many omni-fortifications that's embodied in Phoenix phenomenon. So these many interesting, spectacular facets of the types of co-creative natures, and there's of course many aspects of the, of course, limitless form of peace, which of course is embodied in my independent willpower, radiating eternal peace and eternal bliss, and of course, non-stop, everlasting, positive virtue throughout the universe, because of course, well beyond the ability, type 596 civilization is able to manifest quite a lot, already well beyond, moving faster into even a more accelerated type of limitless expansion, vision. This is just one part of the multi-leveled piece structures, multi-leveled, even just omni sort of fields, omnipresence and understandings, and also clarities in forms of many different types of extensions of that, which is a beautiful, magnificent art form. So, and this is very, very, of course, grand news, which is very positive, very grand, because indeed, definitely understanding, and definitely known, and definitely are capable of this nature. And that's very, very good for this very grand positive ascension, because ultimately we're fully able to understand and to be able to comprehend and therefore manifest this sort of to crystallize it per se, or to describe in the form of what it means to actually have the thought form of light, allows us to, of course, be able to manifest this limitless amount of what is not only the limitless potential of that sort of mindset, which is, of course, very necessary in order to be able to advance to the more, per se, ascended levels of multicreationalistical forms and aspects of what it means to actually, for example, omni-multitask or be, well, let's use the actual phraseology, or excuse me, let's use the actual terminology, or the actual words, the actual phrase, the actual definition per se. Almighty object manifestation as well as omnicompetence, which is one definitely important aspect of what is capable, and ultimately that is also kind of embodied and imbued in a lot of what is already in part by some of the dissemination of Omniarch. So a lot of, which is a very important part of, in a part of the type of trailblazing, is to ultimately help, and what it helps is the assistance of the artifacts, which are parts of not only omnifarious sorts of designs, but also the right phrase would be probably Almighty Link. A lot of trailblazing is a combination probably of these three, or probably even these four, which is important, and it's of course very positive, because it is not only a sort of scenario understanding thing, but it's also a sort of ability to help, and that's that's what is kind of important when it comes to, well, I say the word important, but it's one of the essential things. So one of the essential things is, of course, grounding. Of course, I'm definitely, I mean, that's, I'll ground, and then, of course, help instruct and teach, meaning as in this, of course, with all due respect, this is definitely a process that definitely has to be done uniquely. It can be done with dependence, but of course it most definitely is and shall and will be done independently for discovering, and of course being able to do one of the 3 or 4-fold, and I say fold, but 3 or 4-fold manifestations through, or trailblazing abilities through meta power manipulation, power immunity, power link, and Phoenix phenomenon contains, which is why it's now, and ultimately, I mean, of course, these are huge marks and huge leaps and huge transition periods, which of course I will definitely help ground, or help is, what's a better word? Which I ultimately, for example, embodied in the I am, meaning I will help ground, and that should make sense. So, meaning, Phoenix phenomenon contains the following. This is some of the aspects and some of the makings and the parts and the pieces of what is Phoenix phenomenon, which is almighty magic. I'll explain Phoenix phenomenon, the parts, and then I'll explain some of the grand solutions and also the grand accomplishments that have been done, or that will be done, and of course are done, and of course have always been able to do. So almighty magic, almighty law creation, alpha law, as well as almighty replication, which is one of the main foundations of what Phoenix phenomenon is. And of course, there are aspects of, well, this is the aspect, or the form within the formlessness of understanding what is the Phoenix phenomenon. And of course, also mind shifting and omnifabricating is parts of Phoenix phenomenon. And yes, we have definitely, to be honest, it's a very good thing that there are many different and variety and unified peaceful creations and aspects and successful comprehensions of Phoenix phenomenon, and those levels which allow us to unify, connect, and ultimately just easily ascend well beyond into, of course, the infinite forms of omniscience, which of course are very important parts of our ascendancy, our magic ascendancy, as well as the ascension and shifting and understanding of supernatural intelligence, absolute intelligence, and of psionic manipulation, and cosmic knowledge and MIT science, and of course the understanding and of course creatability of intelligence, infinite intelligence. So, these are very important aspects of trailblazing. This can be done, if grounding needs to be done, then grounding can be done in the forms of course, to be specific with an element, the element of water, or the element of lightning, or the element of fire or magma. Of course, those are many different types of elements that can, of course, actually be there for grounding. And that's, of course, that's very comprehensible and understandable, especially with the cosmic awareness abilities and the abilities to already comprehend what is understood in the field and the understanding of the presence of what exists in omniscience. Omnipotence, of course, and of course the fluidness of what is and isn't the basis of a type of platform which can be made and manifested from the or plural these omniarchs. And that is a very exponential understanding of the limitless potential of what it just means to do some of the most basic things, which is manifest civilizations ultimately. Well, and of course there's still a lot more to go, a lot more to do, and a lot more to create. However, once again, very, very good news. In terms of just the simple ability to not only, one, have sort of understanding of science, magic, ascendancy, but also absolute intelligence and supernatural intelligence. That's very key when it comes to not only what there is to do, which of course is just one of the abilities of being able to do the trailblazing Phoenix phenomenon, but also to ultimately maintain what is not only the limitlessness of what exists in the embodiment of eternal bliss and peace, but also to help guide, reiterate, and then of course re-expand in terms of that already omnipresent positive force, which is limitless and good and positive. And of course there's lots of fantastical positive natures that can be done, and of course there's much more advancement that is in advancement as in ascension, and ascension as in co-creative ability, and co-creative abilities as in just understanding the awakening of the innate, what has already been innate, and now, of course, we're already moving beyond it to a sort of understanding of what is the next field. Of course, always able to, travel in astral plane, and travel in consciousness, and of course, that mastery is very, very positive and has done a lot of change. Of course, once again, I'm definitely able. Well, I'll just continue being, of course, the ambassador for planet Earth, continue ascending and being in absolute clarity of many different types of omniscience, which is already just omniscience itself. It is, for example, and also to continue to ultimately lead in this incredibly unique and yet very patient and yet very capable understanding of our limitless potential, my limitless potential, and of course the limitlessness of what it means to co-create in absolute art form with limitless peace. And that's just one aspect of not only Omniarch, but some positive understandings and comprehensions of complete arsenal. Definition manipulation. Meta probability manipulation, as well as non-existence. In a positive way, if that makes sense. So, what it means is to be able to ultimately, I use the word ultimately a lot. How about the word absolute will? Absolute will for some of the limitless positive forms of creationalistical natures, and of course the positive ability to create positive realms, positive thought forms, and of course endless bliss, which is eternal. This is your host, Christopher Curtis Bonin, and this evening edition of Fiber Liberty on the 8th of August 2017. Love you all.